It's hard to tell what Biden's doing, to be totally frank. The real president is whoever controls the teleprompter. You know, the path to power is the path to the teleprompter.
Oh, ouch! That hurts. That hurts me, and I kind of agree with him. All right. Save America, Elon. You go, kid. And he's going to vote Republican in the next election. Joining me now to talk about Liz Peek, Syndicated, columnist, Fox News contributor. So let's start with Elon. We're going to get to Bezos in a minute and some of his squirrely remarks. But what do you think? Elon's just coming around here.
Yeah, I actually would just as soon he kind of stay in neutral, to be honest, and really just talk about free speech. Because now he's going to be cast as, you know, a right-wing zealot, and that kind of puts this whole effort to take over Twitter in a different haze, you know? So I would like him just to talk about free speech, defend free speech, go buy Twitter. Let's stop dinking around with all these bots and how many bots there are yesterday, today, and so on. Buy Twitter, make it available to everybody, and make a social media empire out of allowing people to voice their actual thoughts. But by the way, you know, Bezos versus Biden, Musk versus Biden, these are not fair contests. Truly not.
Well, do you mean it's not fair for the business people?
I mean, it's not fair because they outweigh Biden in terms of intellectual heft.
Really?
1,000%.
So Elon's got a point about the teleprompter president.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, my husband thinks Jen Psaki's running the government. Now she's gone, so now it really is the teleprompter person. I mean, look, that's kind of harsh, but the truth of the matter, if Joe Biden cannot address the American people without a teleprompter, even with a teleprompter, he makes all kinds of mistakes and says things that are completely befuddling and confused to not only the listener, but also to Joe Biden, apparently. And so, honestly, I think he doesn't quite know what he's reading some of the time.
Let's go to Mr. Bezos on this.
Sure.
I'm very interested. There's two things going on I want to pick your brain on. One is he is the owner of the Washington Post, right? So that is the fake news left, right? I don't want to exclude. I don't want the New York Times people to feel lonely. I'm just saying that
yeah, exactly.
The Post, you got to give them credit, right? They're pillars of the left. And so he is attacking Biden, and the Post is attacking Biden, editorializing it. And secondly, Bezos seems to have had some kind of epiphany regarding the corporate tax cut or the causes of inflation. And as you well know, Amazon, even though he didn't reflect this, Amazon is fighting unionization all across the country.
Sure.
So these are very un-lefty type positions.
Well, and by the way, Elon Musk is in the same boat, right? Both of them, Biden hates both of them, among other reasons, because both of them oppose unionization. The idea that Biden has had these EV conferences at the White House and not invited Musk, it's ridiculous. He put the vehicles on the map.
But Trump didn't like Bezos either because he blamed Bezos for the Washington Post.
Yeah, well, that's understandable.
But that's the kind.
Yeah.
Can I read the squirrel? Put the squirrel one up for us. I want to read that one more time. It's a very squirrely tweet. It's coming. Here it comes. Look, a squirrel. This is the White House statement about my recent tweets. They understandably want to muddy the topic, Liz. They know inflation hurts the neediest the most. Now, here's the error. But unions aren't causing inflation. He gets better. But neither are wealthy people. Remember, the administration tried the best to, and I can't read add another $3.5 trillion to federal spending. I can't see it up in the prompter, but I don't need the teleprompter, unlike certain people. I'm just going to ad lib. So,
argument
now,
here.
Now, why is he doing this? That's my question. What's in it for Jeff Bezos?
Well, I think this all started because Biden put out there something saying that really the problem with inflation is we're not taxing corporations, wealthy corporations, enough. All right, Larry, tax receipts for the first 7 months of the year, up 39%. We are approaching, if the numbers continue as they are, we're going to be at 20% of GDP represented by taxes. Only third time in our history that that's happened. The problem is not that we're not raising enough taxes. The problem is we're spending too much, and that we have been spending too much for the last 2 years. And it went on steroids last year in 2021 when they passed the American Rescue Plan, which is almost $2 trillion of completely unnecessary money. But this tying of inadequate taxes to inflation, by that logic, we should have zero inflation right now because taxes are through the roof.
I don't think Biden cares that much about tax revenues. I think he just likes to bash rich people.
Sure, and rich
That's
corporations.
the progressive mantra, right? That's big government socialism. And I think Bezos is saying, no,
Yeah.
I've had enough.
Well,
Now,
he's
why
saying
he's
that-
had enough at this particular moment, I do not know. But I'm saying this is like enough is enough.
Well, because
And if Biden's losing all these people, all these woke CEOs,
yeah.
where's he going to turn next?
and even comics, Bill Maher and Barry.
Yeah.
Look, everything he's doing is so catastrophically bad that I think people like Jeff Bezos are kind of now freed to say, this isn't working. And by the way, if you really care about inflation, which he's totally right, is the most regressive tax you could possibly lay on the American people, then do something other than talk about taxing wealthy corporations, because that is not going to solve the problem.
Well, that's a good. So it's like Bezos is engaging in reverse woke.
Yeah.
The woke is so bad and unpopular that he's now coming back. It's kind of like a reverse Disney. This is a reverse woke. Now it's time to pile on Joe Biden, who I might add is, strongly in the mid to low 30s in his approval ratings.
Well,
I wouldn't say Bezos a hero, but better have him under the tent than not.
Well, by the way, he is something of a hero. He has created one of the great American corporations, okay?
Right.
Employs hundreds of thousands of people. Why doesn't he pay taxes? Very simple answer. Because he puts almost all his profits back into plant and equipment and to research and development. He spends tens of billions of dollars on research and development. You don't create an Amazon overnight without extraordinary, groundbreaking strategies and algorithms and all the rest of the stuff we love to talk about. This is an extraordinary accomplishment. And if I were Jeff Bezos and the president of the United States was pushing my workers to unionize, which, by the way, will mean that prices ultimately go up for consumers.
It's the one thing
right?
Bezos missed in this squirrel.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's the point of that?
I think you're right. I think he's had enough. I really do.
I think so, too.
I think a lot of these guys have had enough.
High time, too.
It's strange times.
Yeah.
There's something in the air and maybe the water. I'm not sure what. Politics is a great game. Anyway, that was great. Liz Peek, just picking it apart. We like Bezos. We'd rather have Bezos
on
than
our
not
side.
have him.
You bet.